evening, everybody. Welcome to Lemont High School Board of Education meeting, and thank you for coming out and joining us on such a cold, blustery winter evening. Maybe with the number of people in the audience tonight, someone out there can remind me why we live here. At this time, I'd like to call Lemont High School District 210 Board of Education meeting in order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For those who've been with us before, usually this is the time that we honor our students, but we have to dispense with a little bit of school board business. The first part of the meeting is going to be a meeting strictly on the public hearing on our 2013 tax levy. There you go.
Mr. McMahon?
Here.
Mr. Curtis?
Here.
Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Mrs. Marza?
Yes.
Mrs. Talley?
Yes.
Mrs. Driscoll? Here. Mr. Shamrock?
Here. I'm going to introduce Dr. Tickner, who's going to make some opening remarks about the tax levy.
Yep, as you know, last month the tentative tax levy was presented to the Board of Education, and so at this time I'd like to ask Mr. Jeff Egan, our business manager, to come up and present the formal levy.
Thank you, Dr. Tickner. As we talked about last month, this is the second step here in December of a two-step process. Last month, we looked at the levy tentatively, and now we're at the point to which adopt the levy. Based on the tentative levy and the Truth in Taxation Act, we published a public notice, which I believe we have a copy of right up there. We published that in Lemont Suburban Life on December 6th, Downers Grove Suburban Life on December 4th, and the Daily Southtown on December 4th as well. As a reminder, this levy request is for a total of $18,594,146 spread across the funds as outlined in the certificate of tax levy, which is also in your board packet for this evening. There were no changes in the levy amounts from what we discussed last month, either by fund or in aggregate. Later on in the agenda, we will look at 3 resolutions for action, and we'll discuss in detail what those mean at that point. That will finalize the levy, and what I will do is deliver those documents to the 2 county clerk's offices this week and provide those and receive file stamp copies for our office. Are there any questions regarding that process or anything up to this point? Okay.
Great. Right now, this is the opportunity, this is our public comment section of our public levy hearing. In accordance with our board policy 230, we welcome comments from the public at this time, but we ask each individual to keep his or her comments to 5 minutes or less. Additionally, please do not repeat or reiterate comments made by others about the same topic. We ask that any person who wishes to make a public comment, please begin by introducing yourself, spelling your name for the recording secretary, and giving your address. At this time, is there members of the public? Please go forward.
It's hard for me to stand for any length of time. I have neuropathy in my legs and MS.
Sure, that's fine.
Jeff, would you like to?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we could go right ahead.
Well, first of all, my name is Geraldine Dominic, D-O-M-I-N-I-C. I live at 9131 South Somerset Lane in Woodbridge, Illinois, 60517. I could be a commercial for Lemont High School. I love the school. I sent Dean how I believe the school is. The teachers are outstanding. My son's received an outstanding education. However, I want to tell you that last year I got an 18% tax increase on my property taxes. $1,400 in 1 year. All of which went to the school districts, I brought my tax bill here. If you'd like to have it, you are welcome to it. I can't sustain that. Personally, you guys are going to come back with another tax increase. Then, because we're in Woodbridge, we get a levy from Lemont Township, when you guys do your assessments in 14, we get hit with an increase there, and then we get hit with another increase for Downers Grove Township. I don't think that's fair, but I guess that's how it works when you go across, I guess, county lines for education. But we're bearing a disproportion of the tax levy into Woodridge versus, a $1,400 increase in 1 year, and anybody want this, I'm giving it to you, I'll leave it here. And it's not from this gentleman just came up here to give a, I guess his comments. Sounds to me like it's a done deal, and there's nothing we can do, and it's kind of like a waste of my time coming here this evening to tell you that it's really bearing a brunt on my family. I can't, if I have 8,486 cents. What's another 18 or 20% this year, another 18 or 20%? When is it over? And this is when our property values are decreasing. What happens is our property tax increase? Our property values increase. It's like as though you guys are going for blood, and I can't afford it anymore. I couldn't even afford to sell my house. Who the heck is going to be able to pay that? In this economy, we're asked to tighten our belts, okay? We're asked to, I pay my property taxes, I pay taxes. I was at the dollar store yesterday, I couldn't even believe it. I bought wrapping paper, $6, right? And it was actually wrapping paper tissue or whatever. I paid 50 cents in tax, $6. We are taxed to death. And I know that this is for our kids, but having a roof over our kids' heads, being able to pay for the medical insurance, being able to pay for prescription drugs, being able to pay the heat, the electric, the water, the phone bill, the cable bill, and we have to get cable because our kids do our homework on the internet. So it's like, what are you asking us to do? Where does it end? So if it's for the kids, which I agree, I'd love to give you everything, but we can't. Somewhere along the line, we have to make it stop. So you're asking for 9% this year. The other part of the school, the Lemont Bambera, is asking for 8.9%. Okay, so that's 17.9% in 1 year. And how that's being spread about to the families and to the property, I can't afford it. I don't know what you guys are going to be asking us to do. Do I not feed my kid? Well, I feed my kid. Do I shut off the heat? Do I not pay for prescription drugs? I have a son with cirrhosis of the liver. What do I not pay for him? You don't know what each family has in their personal lives. You have no idea what's going on in each home within the school district. But you're putting a heavy burden on each and every one of us. You have people with fixed incomes, you have seniors, you have people like me who have a sickness, myself, plus I have a sickness with my son. So, just if you'd like to know, I paid over $19,000 in medical bills in 1 year out of pocket. And you're asking me for this. And I just got a $1,400 increase. What are you going to ask me this year? What are you going to ask me, and where does it end? And that's what I'm asking this board. Where does it end as our property values are decreasing? And where does it end when our property values start increasing? And I'm ashamed of you guys for, honestly, for having this gentleman come up here and act like it's a done deal, because it probably is a done deal. And there's not a darn thing I can say or do to change your minds. But at least you know there is another story out there. And it might be just Jerry Dominic's story, but there's other Jerry Dominics in this community, and there are seniors in this community, and you're hurting all of us. It's time you guys hone in like we have to. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Dominic. Is there anything that you'd like addressed by Dr. Baker, any of those questions answered or anything else?
Well, one thing I think you guys need to do is, we are not informed in Woodridge about this. I know you guys say, okay, put it in the Downers Grove. But we're that piece in Woodridge that, I don't get the Downers Grove suburban life. Really? I don't get that. So you need to notify us, and you also should be notifying the village of Woodridge, our mayor, and our village trustees of what's going on, so that we can have better communication, because I'll tell you, they have no idea of what's going on here, and I didn't until a gentleman knocked on my door, okay? And I know you're gonna give me a whole bunch of stuff, like, the school needs it, we're trying to get this done, our kids and stuff, but you're taxing us out of our homes. And that's what you're doing, and so the more you tax us out of our homes, and the more that then the property value declines, then the more that you're gonna get less taxes, and honestly, you just throw up your hands, like, I'm looking at which state to live in right now. I just throw up my hands and say I give up, because I can't afford it. Not that the teachers aren't worth it, because they're worth it, I wish they could all make $250 a year, I wish they could make $1 million a year, they're all worth it. These are special people that you have at the Lemont High School, okay, but we can't afford it. And we can't get water, out of a rock. I can't do it. $1,400, please, look at my bill. $1,400 was my last property tax increase. And when I look at it, it went all toward the high school and to the grade school. That's a lot to ask of one person in 1 year. $1,400. But then again, you guys don't get it because it's a done deal.
And thank you for your current service. The board appreciates the time.
I'm leaving this with you next, though.
Thank you. Any other folks like to make public comments?
Would you like me to stand, sir?
Whichever you would prefer. Okay.
First of all, good evening, school board. Thank you for having us here.
Well, excuse me, sir, would you
Oh,
please
okay.
give your name and spell it and your address for the recording secretary?
It's Gary, G-A-R-Y, Gamberdine, G-A-M-B-E-R-D-I-N-E, and the address is 9064 Lancaster Lane, Woodbridge, Illinois, 60517. I have a similar comments to make than that Jerry did too. I'm from the same area where Jerry lives. We're a piece of Woodbridge that was annexed, I don't know how many years ago. And we're just north of I-55 and east of 355, so we're like a little island there. And I know this gentleman mentioned the different papers that has the information for the schools. I was wondering if you could also put that information in the Woodbridge patch. That's what we see in our area, is the Woodbridge patch. And there's approximately 500 or 600 homes in our area, and they're all nice middle to upper middle class homes. So I'm sure you're getting real nice tax out of that area. But anyway, I'll read from there, it's easier. My wife and I are retirees, and as I mentioned, we live in a little section of Woodbridge, and we're in the Lemont High School and middle school districts. When we first bought our house 10 years ago, we thought it would be advantageous to be in the Lemont school districts because they're noted as being some of the best schools in the area. But now, because of our property taxes have increased so much, we're thinking of selling our dream home and moving out of the state. And basically for the same reasons that Jerry mentioned. Our property tax 10 years ago, when I moved in, was approximately $5,500. And now it's $7,500 or $76, somewhere around there. The total represents a 36% or a 3.6% increase per year. So 3.6 increase per year. Inflation for that same period of time was 26.9% or 2.6% per year. So you see, we're getting our taxes raised percentage-wise higher than the inflation. And I know a lot of the levies that you people that the school districts impose has to do with inflation. If it goes up 1%, 3%, that's how you can base your levies on it. But you can see in this case, our taxes went higher than the actual increase in inflation. I'm a senior, my wife's a senior, and we've been on Social Security for the last 3-4 years. And in the last 10 years, I haven't been retired, it must be 7 years. The last 7 years, my Social Security has been raised only $55 a month. So $55 a month in the last 7 or 8 years. And where my taxes have increased 30-some 6% increase. So you can see there's kind of doesn't work out there. And that's, of course, due to the Medicare payments and the 2-year freeze that we had on Social Security. So I guess what I want to say is, we're just coming out of the worst recession since the Great Depression. And between the socialists in Washington, the gangsters in Springfield, and our own school board, we're being forced out of our homes. People have lost their homes, are underwater with their mortgages. And full-time jobs have become part-time jobs, if you can find one. So everyone is struggling, as you probably know. Your neighbors are probably struggling, and even some of your family members. So I know your argument is without higher taxes, our children will be deprived of the best education possible. But I say to you, we, the residents of Lemont, need our school board, our state, federal politicians to stop spending and start cutting and trimming your budgets. Our bank accounts are empty. There's no more we can give. So I just wonder how many here tonight oppose this tax levy? Just a few. Well, make us proud of the school board by being creative and finding other ways and means of raising our taxes to give our children the best education possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Emery. We appreciate your comments. It's your choice, Mrs. Riegel.
My name is Laura Riegel, L-A-U-R-A-R-E-I-G-L-E, I'm from Lemont, Illinois. I too am on the DuPage County side, but for this board tonight, I have a few questions that I'd like to ask, and some of them are, I got information from Jeff Egan today. It was very nice of him. He answered some of the documents that I needed in order to know what was going on here. My first question for the board is all the fund balance for the bond and interest or debt service fund going to be used to make the payments on January 1st, 2014 for the bonds? Can somebody answer that for me?
Is there another question, Mrs. Riegel?
I have a whole bunch of questions. This is a hearing, though, it's not public comments, and at a hearing, you're supposed to answer the public's questions. So I would like to have my questions answered as I'm going, because some of them may go to the wayside depending on the answers that I get.
Respectfully, Mrs. Riegel, this is a 5-minute public comment section of this meeting, and we intend to fully address your questions. We would like them addressed to Mrs. Or to Dr. Turner.
I understand that, but this isn't public comments. This is a hearing. It is not public comments. Any person that gets up from the public that would like to ask questions has the right to get them answered legally at this time, at this hearing. You're voting on this tonight as board members, as our elected board members / trustees. As a trustee, your position is to represent all of us from the public and represent our public tax dollars and our interests. So our interests should be represented and answered at this time. It's really not a difficult question. If you're answering this and you're voting on this tonight, you should have all these known. This should be all known to all of you. Many of you have sat on this board for many terms. Some maybe not. There's a few that haven't, but many of you have. This is protocol. You should already have this stuff embedded in you. Taking training classes from this with the state even as a board member. I mean, it's a very simple question. Are you going to be taking any of the fund balances and using them for the January 1st, 2014 payments? Is that happening? You have a business manager here. We should be able to answer this.
Sure, I can answer that.
Thank you.
First and foremost, and this is a public hearing for the 2013 levy,
Yes.
and the bond interest portion of the question you're asking has nothing to do with the 2013 levy. I'll still answer your question though, and yes, the fund balance we currently have will go towards paying the January 1st payments as I described in the email.
How
And
much
then
is that fund balance? Do you know roughly?
as of the November treasurer's report, it was 3.8 million, 3.5 million. I got it right here. It was $3,085,946.
Okay.
$3,086,000.
$86,000.
From
Over the course of the years, the loss and cost for the bonded interest, starting with the 1996 series, are we abating that funding every year?
not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, so how much money do we have accrued in the fund for loss and cost at this time?
That's a question I can't answer right now.
Okay, but do we have money in the accounts for loss and cost that's been accrued, correct?
There is money in there that has been accruing, yes, based on previous tax levies.
Right. Okay. Okay, with that there, that money in that account, whose money is it? Is it the bondholder's money or the taxpayer's money?
Well, until the bondholders get paid, it'll be the taxpayers' money.
Okay, and it's already accrued. So, I mean, in a retrospect to it being a finished deal tonight, this board before us, our elected officials here, have the ability to take that money, abate that money that's sitting there for loss and cost that's there, that the taxpayers gave them for paying those bonds, and not putting the burden on the taxpayers of this community. The poverty rate in this community, as this board well knows, because it's come up in the past at meetings, is the highest it's ever been in this community. And we have so many people on fixed incomes. This isn't fair what you're doing to this community and to the taxpayers of this community right now. As elected officials, you're supposed to be watching out for them. And as you're hearing, you're actually hurting people in this community. You're hurting them financially with these tax increases. I mean, you have people who have one job or no job right now in this community that are affected horrendously by what your actions are right now. And you do have something to do. You can vote on this, but you can take and change it with the county clerk. This isn't something that isn't impossible to be done right now. Okay, my next.
Mrs. Riegel, we've gone a little bit past the 5 minutes.
I
I would ask the questions as we indicated in our board
It's
policy
important, and I think these people
to
here
be
would love to hear
limited to the
this.
levy questions.
Yes, okay. The working cash fund, what are we levying for the working cash fund? I'm sorry.
I believe it's $110,000.
For the working cash fund?
Let me double check that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, $1,600.
Okay, how much money do we have in our working cash fund? Just to verify.
As of November 30th, working cash is $5.1 million.
Okay, when we have so much money in the working cash, you have to have, according to your levy, your certificate of levy, it claims you need a need. So I'd like to ask, what is the need for the $1,600 that we're currently levying in this levy?
Yeah. Mrs. Riegel, I'm going to ask that you put those questions in writing and address that to
This
Mrs. Secretary.
is important, it's a levy right now. These people are here for the
I
hearing.
understand.
They would like to hear it
Our
too.
public, you've gone about 10 minutes respectfully. We limit our public comment to 5 minutes. I would ask that you submit those
I
questions to Mrs.
realize
Secretary.
that,
She
and
would-
legally,
she would-
it's, like I said, it's a
She will
hearing.
ask those questions. and
We're
work with
here
you to
for
do
a
that.
hearing. The hearing's not to last for 10 minutes,
Thank-
guys.
thank you,
It's
Mrs.
supposed to answer everybody's
Mrs. Riegel,
questions.
thank you.
The working, we're not gonna answer the working cash money? Okay, well, we have a ton of money that we could cut in this budget, and this board member is good for this. This tax levy is ridiculous.
Thank you,
I
Mrs.
agree
Riegel.
with these people out here.
Before we engage in any public commentary, and I'd like to get to everybody that'd like to make a comment, Jeff, would you elaborate a little bit about what the actual percentage is, and that we are not actually receiving 9%?
Sure. The tax levy is the process in which we ask for an amount of money. We are, by tax cap law, allowed to levy at a figure which is CPI and any new construction we get. This year CPI is at 1.7%. So that's kind of where we start with regard to looking at the request. The new construction portion is an unknown, And what we do is we estimate what that new construction piece is gonna be. And if we underestimate, that's money the school district will lose not only this year, but every year thereafter. What the school district do and other taxing bodies do, they estimate more than what they're going to get. When that request gets to the county clerk, they run the calculations and bring that percentage back to what it would be had we known what new construction would be today. So this year, we're looking at a 9% increase over what was extended last year. If you look at our assumptions, we're at about a 1.7% increase for CPI and another 0.5% for the new construction. We believe about $5 million of new construction is what we're estimating, and that's what's in our projection as well. So if you add those two up, most likely come April or May, we'll be at a 2.2% increase is what this is all going to boil down to.
Thanks. Any board members have any additional questions of Chuck? Is there any public comments that anybody would like to make, other than the folks that have already had the opportunity to make public comments?
I just have a question regarding what the gentleman said. So in reality, you know, what would us taxpayers, what would we see in our, as an increase in taxes?
Well, don't forget there's, on this tax bill, there's a portion of this that says, home value. And there's assessed value, I should say. That's a number we don't control, you don't control, that's the assessor. The assessor has their annual cycles, their triennial cycles, they go through their process to value your home versus your neighbor's home and all the other homes in the area. So let's just not forget that what we're asking for is not the final piece or the only piece of the equation. So for me to sit here and say your tax bill is going to go up by X, that's something I can't determine at this point.
We won't hold you to it, but I mean, will it be between 1% and 5%, or will it be between 3%, 9%?
The only thing I can tell you right now, and just as I told them, CPI and new construction, we're looking at probably 2.2% new money next year, spread out amongst all the taxing, all of the property tax payers. That includes residential, that includes commercial, that includes